Hey guys, can you hear me? I know I always started out that way. Let's see. I feel like if you missed Tawanda's live a little bit, go back and she just like hung up a few seconds ago. Go back and watch it. It was actually fun. I think we're in need of some fun around here. But now I kind of feel like I might be a downer. I don't like being a downer. But I've been saying I'm going to tell this story and I'm going to tell it. Hey, Amanda T, Mar, Tawanda, Winky Whispers, Kathy Bradley, just for you. Kimmy P has HDD, Lab, Casey, I miss you. You know I do. Nikki D, Serendipity, Mar, just for you. Puss in Boots, Winky Whispers, Turquoise, Lily, Remy, Misdemeanor. Yeah, they had a fun live. So if you want to get some giggles, go back and watch their live. Don't leave me to do it, but Little Kelly, Black Dahlia. Thank you, Black Dahlia. Randy J, aka L Fry, Pixie Sticks, Ash 274, Sabrina, Willow. Yeah, I stopped by Wogs too. No problem, Willow. Yeah, I stopped by to tell him hi. Hey, B Fergs, Serendipity. But I've been promising I was going to do this live, so I went ahead and scheduled it for today. Hey, Julian. And then after, go back and watch Serendipity. If you're not subscribed, sub up to her, sub up to Dwanda, sub up to Jenna Moon. Sarah and Brandon tell a fascinating story of not just about addiction, but about recovery too. Tawanda just gets up there and giggles, which keeps it fun, and that's usually what this community needs. But and I'm going to try to keep this as lighthearted as I can. It's a touchy topic, but I've noticed around the community lately um, that addiction has been thrown around a lot lately. And sometimes I'm in live streams and I just lurk. I don't even type in the chat. Um, but yeah, it was good, Amanda T. But I notice a lot of people, have either have struggled with addiction or they are currently struggling with addiction. They're in recovery. But for just think about it, for everyone that admits it in a chat or on a panel, how many more are sitting there that are currently dealing with it or working on sobriety? For everyone that admits it, think about how many more there are in that chat that's actually struggling with it. So just because we know, hey, Lino, uh, you know, just because somebody's brave enough to come out and say, I've struggled with addiction in the past, or I'm currently struggling with addiction, that doesn't mean everybody is. So, just because you think you know the people in the community that have dealt with addiction that are dealing with recovery, and recovery is something that lasts your whole life. It's not something that you do and you get through it and then boom, okay, I'm recovered. No, once an addict, always an addict. That took that as a mother, that was a lot. That was a big pill for me to swallow because I thought I could cure him. I really thought I could cure him. I mean, but it's not, you can't. It's once an addict, always an addict. You spend the rest of your life fighting every single day to stay sober. It doesn't matter. Hey, Quinny, may I ask if he's still in his addiction or in recovery? I'm trying to stay here, but it's hard at times. I lost my son to it after a relapse after 10 years. Quinny, I am so sorry. I am so sorry because you are absolutely living my worst fear. And most of the time, that's how you lose them is they come out of recovery, they relapse, they try to go back and do the amount that they did before they went into recovery, and that's how you lose them. Quinny, my heart breaks for you. All I can tell you about my son is he FaceTimed me earlier today, and for today, he's he's clean. As a mother, I never allow myself to breathe a full breath. Hey, Caslin. Hey, Pixie. Sticks. True Helper. Turquoise. Mandolin. I'm so sorry, Quinny. And you don't have to talk about it. It's your story to tell when you're ready, if you're ever ready. But you are absolutely living my worst fear. And all I can tell you is I FaceTime my son today, and for today, he's clean. I won't say he's sober, but for today, he's clean. And for that, I'm grateful. So I'm going to turn back the clock a little bit. I had Chance, my son, when I was 21 years old. I was scared to death. I was single. I wasn't ready to be a mother. And I've never been one of those people that said I did the best I could with what I had. Because now that I'm older, I look back and know I didn't. I did the best I could. I thought I was doing the best I could, but I made my mistakes too. Kids don't come with rule books, especially when you're 21 years old and the thought of having a child just scares the shit out of you. Um, I want you all to picture yourself because this gets thrown a lot around a lot in this community as if, the word junkie. First of all, I hate the word junkie because that insinuates that someone is junk. And no one is junk because everyone out there is someone, whether it's your brother, your child, your mother, your father, your cousin, your uncle. No one is junk. So I absolutely detest the word junkie. I remember using it in an argument with my son because I thought because I had tried everything else, I thought if I just cut him to the bone, hey Tatum, if I just say something that's so mean and hateful that he'll snap out of it. There is no snapping out of that. It didn't work. What I did finally figure out is I didn't cure it. I mean, I didn't cause it. I couldn't control it and I couldn't cure it. And I still have to remember that on a daily basis. I'm sorry, Mar. I don't think there's many people out there that hasn't been touched by addiction. But I'm going to try to give it to you through a mother's. Please feel free to contact me. I do have a lot of info. Thank you, Quinny. And like I said, my heart goes out to you. Um, I'm going to try to give it to you from a mother's point of view instead of from an addict's point of view. I want you to picture yourself on a playground. I want you to picture yourself at a little league game or your little girl's cheer camp. Now I want you to look around and I want you to see all these little people running around playing. I call them littles. All these littles running around playing with not a care in the world. And you approach these littles and you say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you're going to hear, I want to be a cop. I want to be a firefighter. I want to be a professional wrestler. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be the president. I want to be a gymnast. I want to be, a mommy. I want to, but you know what you're not going to hear come out of these littles' mouths? You're not going to hear, I want to be an addict. No child on that playground is going to tell you that they want to grow up to be an addict. Now, my son's addiction started at around 17. Now, before that, he was smoking pot. He was occasionally doing ecstasy. I knew this. Uh, but his full blown, yeah, taking him trick or treating, yeah. But his full blown addiction started at about 17. My son has really bad knees. So he blew his knee out. He went to the doctor. And back then, they just handed out hydrocodone, like, you know, here's a script of 30 or 90. See a, see an orthopedic surgeon. Well, he was 17. He didn't have insurance. And a knee replacement at 17 is not a good idea because you usually have to have them replaced every 10 years. So he started out with the script of opiates over, a knee injury, bad knees. He's still got bad knees to this day. Well, he liked it. He liked it. He liked the way they made him feel. Number one, they took away the pain. And number two, he liked the way they made him feel. I believe my son has a lot of, even though he's always been like the class clown, um, I believe my son has a lot of turmoil inside of him. And he can't talk to me about it. There's a lot of things me and my son can't talk about. I'm currently seeing a therapist because I have so much resentment towards my son for not only what he's done to my life, but for what he's done to his. But we'll work on that later. So he went from doing, once he got that script, that was it. It was over. It was, you know, it was, it was game on. And I do have some addiction in my family. Um, there's alcoholism. My oldest brother, who passed away when he was in the military over in Germany, he was an IV drug user. So he got those pills, and it was, and he hit the streets, and he never really stopped running. He never really stopped from that point on. But that got to be where that wasn't enough anymore. Those weren't enough. Hold on, I gotta grab something to drink. What I do with my drink? Hold on, guys. Okay, so we were talking about the hydros, the oxys, the Those got to the point they weren't enough. So my son went to a drug called Opana, and he figured out that it's much more it's it's a more intense high if you turn them into liquid and put them in your body through a needle. Now, I never dreamed that my little boy would stick a needle in his arm or anywhere else in his body. This was the kid that when the nurse came in with the needle, he kind of like froze up. So when the Opanas, they got to the point where I don't know who controls it, the Food and Drug Administration or whatever, they realized that the Opanas was becoming an epidemic. So they took the Opanas and they made them where when you tried to water them down, they gelled up. So you couldn't fire them up anymore. You couldn't put them in a needle. You couldn't. So what was the next alternative? The next alternative was heroin. Between his Opana and his heroin addiction, I told him, I said, you're going to get clean. And basically, I locked him in a bedroom and I poured Gatorade down him. The sweat that came off of him stunk so bad. And it was like a thick kind of sweat. I mean, I just basically watched him lay in his room, shitting himself. I'm changing the sheets, uh, puking in a bucket beside the bed. I'm emptying the bucket. This went on for a good 7 days. I'm giving him over the counter, uh, like diarrhea medicine. But I was, by God, you're getting clean. Come hell or high water, you're getting clean. I got him clean, what I thought. And as soon as I thought I had done my job, he went back out on the streets and he found heroin. Heroin. Oh my God. I had people in my family telling me that Chance was doing heroin, and I was calling him a fucking liar. I was telling my sister she was lying. There's no way. Because you got to remember, everything I know from heroin comes from back in the 60s and 70s. I think of Janis Joplin and, Jimi Hendrix and, you know, I'm like, no, not heroin. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I didn't even know you could find heroin anymore. It was like, you got to be kidding me. I called people in my family liars. I defended him. But then I started to see the signs, but I still didn't want to admit it. He'd come in from work and he'd sit in a chair and he would nod off. And I'd be like, son, what are you on? What are you doing? And he'd be like, Mom, I'm just tired. I worked out in the sun all day. I'm just tired. And as a mother, you want to believe that. You want to believe that your son's just tired from working out in the sun all day. But you know deep in your heart, that's not what's going on. Well, let me tell you how I finally had to admit that my son was now a heroin addict. I was getting ready to move to Florida. I was staying with my sister who lived in an upstairs apartment. And it was Christmas Eve. And of course, I was sleeping on her couch and I'm laying there awake because, as the mother of an addict, you never truly sleep. You nap, but you never truly sleep. You never have a good night's sleep, ever. You think you might, but it's never a full-blown sleep. So it's Christmas Eve, and I hear a car pull up down below the apartment, and I'm looking out the window, and they've got the light on, the overhead light on in the van, and I immediately know who's in the van. I've got a clear view of the driver. I don't have a clear view of the passenger, but I know it's Chance. And right there, they're liquefying. They've got the bottom of a aluminum can cut. They got a can cut in half. They're liquefying the heroin, and they're getting ready to shoot up. And I'm staring now. I'm staying with the sister that I called a liar, that my son was not a heroin addict. And I sat there and I watched them do it. And that's when it hit me that my son was now a heroin addict. So it's Christmas Eve. Chance comes upstairs. Of course, by this time, he's no longer getting high off of it. He's done it for so long now. He's not getting high anymore. He's just trying to keep from getting sick. It's no longer is it a high. It's just to keep from getting sick. So he comes upstairs and he sits down on the couch and he has tears in his eyes. And he says, Mom, I saw you looking out the window. I said, yeah. I said, but it didn't stop you, did it? And he said, Mom, I don't know what it's going to take to stop me. And my son, being my son, he said, Mom, will you give me some money? I said, nope, I can't give you any money. He said, Mom, and his dealer was still down, the guy he was using with was still down in his van. And he said, we'll just call him Larry. Larry's getting his daughter in the morning. It's Christmas morning, he said, and we spent all of his money on dope. He said, Mom, I just want to make sure this little girl has Christmas tomorrow. So not only was my son an addict, but this is what goes to show that he's a human being. I'm sorry if I'm not reading chat. So I get up, I get dressed, we go to Walgreens. It's the only thing that was open. We didn't even have a Walmart back then. I go to me and Chance go to Walgreens. We buy Barbie dolls, baby dolls, a baby carriage, dishes, coloring books, crayons, whatever we can buy. And we come back to the apartment, and Larry is still sitting in his van, ashamed to go home because, he's not going to have anything for his daughter when she wakes up in the morning. And we give him all of this stuff. And this drug addict looked at me and he said, I know you don't like me. I know you don't like the kind of person I am. He said, but thank you. And he started crying. And that's when I realized that addicts are people. I mean, I always knew my son had a heart, but I always was angry at the people that he used with. I always tried to blame them. If he wasn't hanging out with this person, then he wouldn't be doing drugs. If he wasn't hanging out with that person, then he wouldn't be doing drugs. But that's not the case. He did drugs because he was now an addict. Now, a lot of people will say being an addict is a choice. Being an addict is a choice, but once. Once. At one point, Becoming an addict is a choice. And that's the very first time you do that drug. The very first time you do that drug, the receptors in your brain, if you're the kind of person, if you're an addictive personality, the receptors in your brain now want that. Now it craves it. So it's no longer a choice. That's why some people become addicts and some people don't. Some people can use drugs recreationally and some people can't. I did drugs when I was younger. I tripped on acid, I did quaaludes, but I never became a slave to that substance. My son became a slave to a substance. So I go to Florida. My son's back in Indiana. He's working. There's nothing I can do about his addiction. I have fought him. I have cried. I've done things to try to hurt his feelings, thinking if I just offend him enough. I've said things that I still to this day have so much guilt over. He doesn't. He forgot about it. He's like, Mom. I mean, me and my son still have a long way to go. But I got to get my head straight with me first before I can ever sit down with my son and tell him what his addiction did to my life. And it's not to make him feel guilty because I've tried that. Trust me. If guilting him was a way to get him sober, shit, my son would have been clean before he ever got really addicted to anything. But so my son's working, he's in full blown heroin addiction, and I moved to Florida. So I'm not down there very long when there's a snowstorm in Indiana. There's about 2 foot of snow on the ground. My son calls me crying. He says, Mom, I'm cold. I've got nowhere to go. I'm high. I don't know where I'm going to get high the next time. He said, but Mom, I'm ready to start a new life. I'm ready to get clean. I'm ready to start a new life. Can I please come to Florida? And in the beginning, I was like, nope, nope, nope. You're not going to do it. But of course, I'm his mother. He was in a snowstorm, probably not dressed appropriately. And I'm in Florida where it's 82 degrees. I've got food in my belly. So as his mother, what do I do? What do I do? I put him on a bus. I bring him to Florida. We sit down, we have a talk. I explain to him, by this time we're years into this. We're years into this. I explained to him that I can't do it anymore. I can't, if you don't know what it's like to never really take a full breath in, that's what the mother of an addict feels like because you're scared. If you don't know what it's like to never have a good night's sleep, that's what it's like to be the mother of an addict because you're scared to sleep. So I bring him to Florida. We have this long talk. He's going to stay clean and sober. He's going to turn his life around. You know, everything's going to change. Our lives are going to get, we're going to be mother and son. We're going to have that relationship where he gets a home of his own and he comes over and he does his laundry and we go out to lunch together, the normal something that I hadn't had in over 10 years, the normal. Well, he gets to Florida, he meets a guy down the street. What do they start doing? They start using Dilaudid. So now he's on Dilaudid. It's not just eating them, it's not just snorting them, because Chance already knows. You put them in your veins, it feels a lot better, a lot quicker. He learned that years ago. So now he's addicted to Dilaudid. Finally, the law catches up with him. He's committed enough crimes that the law catches up with him. Okay. I was home alone one night and he had gone down to the beach, and instead of doing the typical opiate, now he decides to try to smoke ice, which is it's a methamphetamine. Never been a methamphetamine kind of kid, always an opiate. Never, ever, ever did a methamphetamine. Always an opiate. So now he's going to switch drugs. He's just going to totally flip on me. Well, if you thought opiate addiction was bad, let me tell you something. Methamphetamine like to push me over the edge. So I get a phone call from the county jail. Chance had gone down to the beach and he was smoking ice and he dropped acid. He freaked out. He was running through a hotel screaming and carrying on. What is ice? It's just rocked up methamphetamines. It's just rocked up meth. You smoke it in what they call a chicken bone, which is a glass pipe. Oh, trust me, I know all of this. So I get a phone call, and you know what he's charged with? He's charged with aggravated assault on police officers and EMTs. Do you know what kind of sentence that carries in Florida? The police report read that when the police finally took him to the ground, he was screaming for mom and God. I need my mom. I need God. I need my mom. I need God. When he finally come to in the hospital, he looked at the cop and said, "Did I catch a charge?" And the cop said, "Yeah, Chance, you caught a big one." So, because he also went for the cops' guns. I mean, he's fighting with two cops and he's going for their gun. He could have caused those police officers to take his life. So he gets sentenced to prison. Okay, now I'm like, oh my God, he's been in county jail before, but he's never been in prison, big boy prison. Now I'm like freaking out. I'm like, so he gets sentenced to a year and a day. He could have gotten much more, trust me. They took it easy on him. He could have gotten 10 years on that charge. So now he's in prison. He's in big boy prison. I mean, I'm scared to death. Is he going to, get in with a gang? Is he going to get raped? Is he going to, be punked out? Is he going to be a punk? Is he going to get tattoos on his face? No offense to anybody who has tattoos on their face, but it's always been a pet peeve of mine because I don't feel like you can, you really narrow your chances of getting a job or having a career. And that was what I always told him when he was in county jail, getting these tattoos, and I told him, it could cause hepatitis and whatever. He didn't listen. So now he's in prison. So even though you can get drugs in prison, I know my son. He wasn't using in prison. Okay. I know his voice. I know his mannerisms. I know him better than I know himself. So that was the first time in 15 years that I actually slept. That I actually slept. That I didn't have to fear the phone ringing. Do you know how hard it is to hear your phone ring in the middle of the night and you don't want it to be them because they're going to want something, they're going to need something, they're going to beg you for something, but you don't want it to not be them because the other side of that coin is either it's the police or the morgue. So you freeze. The phone rings and you just freeze. So while he's locked up, he's still at the reception center. When you go to prison, you go through a reception center. They prepare you to go to prison. But like I said, imagine not sleeping for 15 years and then you finally get that night's sleep. But for 15 years, when the phone rings at night, you stare at it because you don't want it to be them, but you don't want it to not be them. I know it sounds messed up. Yeah, I'm not reading chat right now, guys. And I know that sounds crazy to look at a phone and think, oh, please don't be him. But then you're thinking, oh, God, let it be him so that you know that he's still alive. But you don't want to hear from him because you don't want to hear their sob stories, their lies. Mom, I got robbed. Mom, I lost my wallet. Mom, my money fell out of my pocket at the beach. I've heard them all. I've heard them all. So he's in prison or he's in the reception center. While they're in a reception center, they're not allowed to contact anybody on the outside. Well, while he's there, I'm diagnosed with cancer. So I have no way of getting in touch with him. He has no way of getting in touch with me. So while he's at the reception center waiting to be placed in a prison, I'm diagnosed with cancer. Now I'm freaking out because I'm not going to get to talk to him because he's not going to know, I'm just freaking out. My whole world is falling apart. I don't want to talk to him, but I need to talk to him. It's such it's a tug of war. Your whole life is a tug of war. So the doctors come in, they tell me I have cancer. You know what I said to that doctor? I said, I need a year and a day. And he said, a year and a day. He said, I've had a lot of requests. And I said, I need a year and a day. That's my son's sentence. And I can't die while he's in prison because I'll never see him get clean and sober if I die while he's in prison because I knew what my son would do. He would come out and he would use until the point that he killed himself. I agree with that. I believe stress does, and I do believe stress has a lot to do with cancer too. So I had my cancer surgery. I went to my sister's to recuperate for, a week or so. And I asked her if she would run by my place and check my mail. And it's a letter from Chance. And he's like, wow, mom, I never thought you would abandon me in a time like this. I thought you were going to stick with me through this. He thinks because he can't get in touch with me because I'm in the hospital having colon cancer surgery that uh that I've abandoned him. I've walked away from him. That wasn't the case. There was no way to communicate. So the letter kind of hit me hard because I was like, wait a minute. I'm laying here with cancer and you're writing me a shitty letter from prison. He doesn't know I have cancer, but I'm getting a shitty letter from prison. Oh, you're welcome. So I sat and write like 2 lines to him. And I said, son, I haven't abandoned you. I've never abandoned you. I'm not in good health right now, but I'll be fine. You can call the house tomorrow because when you're in prison, you can't call cell phones. You have to have a Florida prison, you have to have a landline. And I had a landline at my house. I didn't have one at my sister's. So immediately my sister comes home from work and I was like, I'm ready to go home. I wasn't ready to go home. I wasn't supposed to lift anything. I mean, my gut had been cut open. A foot of my intestine had been taken, or my colon had been taken out. But I told my sister, I said, I'm ready to go home. So I got all my stuff gathered up. I got my dog. And the only reason I wanted to go home, I had a red phone that sat on my TV stand, was because I wanted to be able to talk to him. So I went home and boom, immediately my phone rings. It's him. So I have to tell him the truth. I have to tell him, but still, in his addictive mind, in his mom is untouchable, uncrushable, still in his addictive mind, my cancer wasn't his main concern. It was still all about chance. Now, keep in mind, he had only been in there probably a month now, but it still wasn't about me. It wasn't, oh my God, mom, I'm so sorry. You know, it was in his mind, it was still all about him. And that hurt. That hurt to the bone, man. That cut to the bone. But that was his addictive mind. It was still all about him. And it started. Can I get some money for my books? Can you send me a package? Can you do this? Can you do that? And the same old story I'd heard before when he'd be locked up in county. Mom, I swear when I get out, I'm done. I'm done. I'm ready to turn my life around. And I believe he was. He didn't like what he was doing. He actually called me from a motel room one day and he was crying and he said, Mom, every single time I stick this needle in my body, I want to throw up, but I can't stop. We tried rehabs, didn't work. Why didn't it work? Because he wasn't ready to work it. He wasn't ready to work it. So I'm taking care of my cancer. I'm trying to work in between chemotherapy. In the meantime, I'm losing everything. I mean, I'm not being able to work full time because of the chemotherapy. I'm losing, I'm getting behind on credit cards. I'm getting behind on all my bills. I'm just losing everything. And Chance gets out. And I'm thinking, okay, this is it. This is it. Chance is going to get out. He's going to get a job. He's going to help me, catch up on my bills. Um, this is it. This is now it's going to start. Things are going to start looking up for me now. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. Now I have to hide my medicines. Now, anything that I took for which I didn't take much for pain. As a matter of fact, we'll back up a little bit. While I was in the hospital and just had colon cancer surgery, they had me hooked up to a IV drip of Dilaudid. And the nurse would come in and she'd say, "Honey, you're not using your pain medicine. You need to use your pain medicine." But every time I hit that button, it made me sick to my stomach. And not because of the actual medicine, but because I thought of chance. Every single time I hit that button on that freaking IV for that pain medicine, I thought of chance. And that's what was making me sick. It wasn't the medicine itself. The medicine itself did help the pain, but it was every single time I hit that button, the thought of chance went through my mind. So I just got to the point I just dealt with the pain. So I get out of the hospital, he gets out of prison. I'm thinking everything's going to be better. Nope. He hit the streets running. He was right back into smoking ice. He was coming home. He was in these fucking crazy ass psychotic episodes where he would lay in the bed and pound his chest and grunt, and he would get angry. And that's not my son. My son's not an angry person. He's so nonchalant that even that sometimes pisses me off. But I would listen to him lay in there and make these noises and stress out over everything. I mean, if the iPad wouldn't fire up quick enough, because you know what? He had to get in touch with his buddies because he had to get out there. He had to use more. He had to get more. He had to be out there. He had to be out there on the streets because, he knows more than me. Uh, at this point, it was out of control. It was just totally out of control. I had lost everything. And I kept telling him, "Son, if you don't help me, I'm going to lose my home. You know, it, we're both going to be stuck." And he would go to work and he'd get paid and he'd give me $100, $60, but he'd turn around and either steal it out of my wallet or ask for it back. Yeah, Quinny, every addict is different. But I can tell you that methamphetamine was the absolute. I've been through every addiction with my son, but methamphetamine was what set me over the edge. So 2 days before Christmas, 2 days, and I'll never forget this. 2 days before Christmas, and he's in a rage. He wants money. Um, he took his Christmas presents and he went and he pawned them, but it wasn't enough. Yes, absolutely testicle. And I'm still an enabler to a point. Very much so. I'm in counseling. I'm in therapy right now because I'm probably one of the most codependent people you'll ever meet in your life. Um, I'm one of those people that need somebody to need me. I need to be there for somebody. I need somebody to need me. So, but yes, I was definitely an enabler, most certainly. So he goes into this rage and he starts throwing stuff around my place. I grab my dog. I run out into the parking lot. The next thing I know, he's throwing shit out of my home into the parking area, into the driveway. He's throwing shit into the parking spot. He's totally destroying my apartment. I don't know what to do. I don't want to call the police on him because you don't want to see him go to jail, but I don't know what to do. So I had no choice. The neighbors are all out. The next thing you know, a SWAT team shows up at my place. Chance is inside my place in his boxers on this raging ice methamphetamine. I don't know. And I can't explain it. It was so not my son. And I've got the SWAT team at my home trying to talk him out. I was begging him. I was crying, please don't shoot him. Please don't shoot him. Please don't shoot him. Um, they're like, we got to get him out of there. He's a harm to himself. I was like, just let me go back in. They're like, nope, you cannot go back in. Get back, get back. Finally, they coax him out. And as you all say, 5150. In Florida, it's called Baker Act. So the cops put a Baker Act on him, which meant he had to go to a mental/detox center. Now it's 2 days before Christmas. I walk into my apartment. Everything is destroyed. Everything. Everything's broken. Everything's in pieces. My furniture's turned over. And I sit down on my couch and I cried. For the first time in such a long time, I cried. And I spent the night cleaning up the mess. I took the Christmas tree fully decorated. I took it down to the dumpster and I dumped it, all the decorations and everything on it. I threw it in the garbage. I knew the Baker Act was only going to last 72 hours. So I clean up the apartment as best I can. I salvage what I can. And 72 hours later, he comes to my door. Of course, he's feeling guilty. He grabs him a bag and he says, Mom, I think it's time I go. And I said, yeah, I think it is. I think it's time you go. I said, and until you make that decision to clean your world up, I think it's time you stay gone. He walked out the door. Good, Quinny. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear that. He walked out the door and he was gone maybe 3 days. I come home from work. I had done a chemotherapy treatment. In between the treatment and the 48 hours that I carried the pack, I had a good day or two that I could actually go to work. So I'd gone to work. I come home. He had gotten into my home. He didn't have a key. He had gotten into my home. He's sitting there watching TV. Not, I was just like, I can't believe you're here, but I go into the bathroom. I have a white shower curtain, and all down my white shower curtain is blood spatter. Chance, what happened to my shower curtain? Because, they're professional liars. So I just wanted to see what he come up with. And he says, oh, I had Christy over and she took a shower and she cut her leg shaving. No, you fired up dope in my bathroom. So not only are you now using, but now you're going to use in my home while I'm at work. Then he started stealing from me. I got to the point where I slept with my debit card and keys and everything in my pillowcase. I slept with everything in my pillowcase. Uh, because well, I couldn't trust him. So it got to the point that I did. I ended up, I lost everything. I mean, I couldn't pay my bills. And I'm sitting there one day and I'm about an inch from a nervous breakdown. And my phone rings and it's my brother. Now, I never put my business out on Facebook. I was embarrassed to talk to my family about it because Chance had done so many things to my family that they didn't trust him. They loved him, but they didn't trust him. They didn't want him around. Um, and it's my brother. And he says, you got 1 week to get packed up. I'm coming with the U-Haul and I'm bringing you home. And you're going to get your health in order. You're going to get your mind in order. It was just out of the blue. It was like, my brother never called me like that. You know, we would talk on Facebook and Messenger or something. Hey, how you doing, sis? I'm okay. You know, so Chance come in and I said, he's watching me pack up what little bit I have left. He's like, where you going? I said, I'm going back to Indiana. And he's like, I think that's a good idea, Mom. I said, you're not going. He said, no, I think you're right, Mom. I think you need to go back to Indiana. He said, because as long as you're here, you're going to kill me. You're going to love me to death because I've never hit my rock bottom, Mom, because you never allowed me to. Hey, Laced with Lacey. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. The absolute hardest thing I ever did was to pull off in that U-Haul. I handed him $400. Now I knew this $400 could kill him. I knew it could. I handed him $400. The neighbors are crying. I'm crying. Chance is crying. My brother's crying. It was just a big blubber and freaking mess. And I put that $400 in the palm of his hands. And I said, now you can go get you something to eat. And you can put a roof over your head for a couple nights. And you can make the decision to make that phone call to get your life in order. Or you can use this to go get dope and you can sleep on the beach and you can continue the life that you're leading. But I can't help you, Chance, if I die before you do. I can't help you if I'm gone. So I get in that U-Haul. And like I said, my brother, who's got a heart like you wouldn't believe, he's bawling. I'm bawling. The neighbors are crying. My son is crying. We get to the end of the street, and my brother's like, fuck it. Let's just go back and get him. And I said, no, please keep going. And it's breaking my heart. I mean, it's the hardest thing I've ever had to do. But I had to do it because he was killing both of us. And I knew I couldn't help him if if I wasn't well enough. I had to stay strong. And even though you stay strong, you still sometimes you just can't save them. You just can't save these guys. But for God's sakes, people, I am begging you, please quit calling people junkies. Quit calling people crackheads. Please. Because this is my son. This is Quinny's son. This is somebody's brother. It's somebody's sister. I'm begging you, if you want to throw something at somebody, throw anything, but don't throw addiction. Because now we're going to go back to that playground that we started at. Those little kids that were on that playground are now all grown up. Okay. And 3 out of 4 are going to try drugs. 1 out of 4 is going to become an addict. 1 out of 4 is going to become an addict. That could be your son. That could be your daughter. Drugs do not discriminate. You can't love your child enough to keep them from being an addict. You can talk until you're blue in the face, but all it takes is for your child to go to a party and smoke a joint that's laced with fentanyl or laced with heroin. And if it doesn't kill them there on the spot, it made them feel so good, they want to do that again. And if you're going to sit here and tell me that your kids are not going to try pot or they're not going to try two for four now, yeah. So no matter how good of a parent you are, you can't make it not happen. You can talk. You think I didn't have the drug talk with my son? You think I didn't have that talk with my son so many times? I explained to him that we come from a family of addiction. It's in our blood, you know, mostly alcohol, but it's still addiction. You know, my son OD'd once, and the way I found out was he left his messenger open on my iPad, and I see that his messenger's open. Of course, I'm going to look. And he's laying in a hospital bed, messaging somebody from his phone, asking them to come and get him because he had just OD'd, and they Narcaned him and brought him back. It does not discriminate, Quinny. It does not. You know, you think about sending your kids to private schools or Catholic schools or parochial schools. Why? Those kids just have better, they just have more money and better drugs. It doesn't matter what you do. Do you need to have the talk with your kids? Of course you do. And do you need to be blunt and let them know? Yeah, that's how I found out my son had OD'd, was by looking at my iPad. Now, once again, this community has gotten pretty ugly. I was so glad Tawanda went live today and there were some laughs and some giggles, but take it from the mother of an addict. Every time you use the word junkie, you stab me in the heart. Every time the word junkie is used or thrown out there, or go stick a needle in your arm, or, go do this, go die, go do your drugs and die. And every time I hear that said, even though I've never done anything to some of the people that's saying that, and they're not saying it to me, it's a stab in the heart to me. And I pray that your little ones, whether they're 5, 6, 7, 15, 17, 19, I pray they never, ever, ever have to experience the life of an addict, because I would never want you to have to experience the life of an addict's mom. Drugs take the soul of the addict. It takes the heart of those who love them. So, once again, didn't mean to be a downer. There's so many more stories I could tell you about his addiction. Like I said, I FaceTimed him earlier. For today, for right now, he's clean. And I still won't take that full breath. I don't know if I'll ever be able to take that full breath. But for today, he's clean. And I'm grateful for that. And I pray he's grateful for that. Because I have one of the most caring, if we were all sitting around and we were all sitting around in lawn chairs, and my son was sitting there with us, and any one of you all walked up, my son would be the first to stand up and say, "Here, take my chair." Because I raised him to be a good man. And he is a good man. He just happens to be a good man with a disease. Thank you, Lexi Lou. So the next time that one of you all want to throw, thank you, Amanda T. The next time one of you all want to throw that out there, and if anybody would like to come on panel and tell their story, I'll drop you the link. But the next time that one of you guys want to throw junkie, worthless, please remember, you're stabbing an innocent person in the heart, because every time you say that, and I don't care who you're saying it to or about, it's about my son. I don't care if you're saying it to Amanda Lynn, it's about my son. I don't care if you're saying it to Laura, it's about my son. So again, I didn't mean to be a downer. I thought I would come on and share just a piece of my life, which is being the mother of an addict. Do I have a long way to go? Yeah, I got a long way to go. Um, there's a lot of resentment that me and Chance still have to get through. Um, hold on, I just got a message. Thank you, Wogs. And I so want you to sub up to OG Interactive, because if there's one person on this platform that treats these people with addiction like human beings, it's him. And I love going out there with Wog, and I love his kindness to these people because they're not garbage. They're not junkies. They're people. They're people with a disease. They're people that are struggling. Their sons, their daughters, their uncles, their fathers, their mothers. So if you're not subbed up to OG Interactive, please do. Because like I said, every time one of you guys throws addiction at somebody, remember, you're not only throwing it at the person that you're intending it for, but you're throwing it at everybody that loved that person. Thank you, Pixie. I love you too. I love you all. And I'm so happy that you guys come in here with me. And let me just bring up one more thing. This country, this world is going through a really tough time right now. Young people who are used to socializing are not being able. Thank you, Carla Ray. They're not being able to socialize. That's pushing a lot of young people over the edge. It's going to push some to drugs. Some are going to self-medicate. Let's do each other a favor. Throw a little tomatoes here and there. But remember, once you say something, once it leaves your mouth, no matter how many I'm sorries, sometimes you can't fix it. If you take a plate and you drop it on the floor and it breaks into a million pieces, and you say, I'm sorry to that plate, it doesn't go back together. It's still broken. If you're struggling out there, guys, you need somebody to talk to, I'm always here. Quinny, my email is in my about section. You want to talk? Like I said, lady, you are living my worst nightmare. You want a link, Galway? Is that what Galway just said? I just want people to stop and think. The tongue is the strongest muscle in the body. Okay, Quinny, I'll get it. And with the situation of the world today, I see Wog go out there and I see him, you know, talking to these guys and these women and these men, and he's talking to them like a human being. When was the last time somebody talked to him like a human being? Some of these people have gone weeks and nobody's treated them like a human being. Months, years, and nobody's treated them like a human being. And Wog, I thank you for that. Because if my son was still out there on the street, which could he very well could be tomorrow, he could be tonight. God, I pray not. But I would want someone like you to roll up on him. I would want somebody like you to roll up on him. What's up, Galway?
Hey, Trace.
Hey, Galway.
Thanks for sharing your story.
No
Your
problem.
life, not a story, your real life. I just wanted to say that, like, all your life you hear words hit harder than a fist. And, our parents, for the most part, bring us up teaching us that to be careful what we say to others because
Thank you,
words
Queen.
have repercussions. And I really never realized it as much as YouTube, like how real that saying truly is. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I'm at 50 years old, that's pretty bad when you've had life experiences and friends and relatives and you've seen the worst, on a social media platform. Nobody knows what state of mind somebody is in.
That's
And to
right.
throw those words around and say, well, I only said it to that person, that's beyond ignorant. I can't even comprehend, how someone's head goes there. But I did want to ask you, um, I never suffered addiction per se, but I did suffer anorexia pretty bad in high school, and it really hurt my family and my one best friend, who's still my best friend, so badly that I truly believe it. Anorexia is an addiction. So if you or one of the other creators in our group or whatever wants to ever do a Saturday show, because I think these are good Saturday afternoons for the most part. It seems people are free on anorexia, so I could share my story and maybe a few others that are out there that had it.
Of course.
That's why the fat shaming really bothers me. You know what I'm saying? Like the first time I ever heard people going at, and this was years ago, and they've done it since, Diane's channel, you're Skeletor, you're so skinny, you're to be called that is just as equally bad. Do you know what I'm saying? Sometimes people are just naturally thin, and that's the way they are. It's the way God made them. So people think that just because you're thin, it's, you know, a blessing or whatever, but sometimes it's medical or so I wanted to ask if we could do that one weekend or something or during the week.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we can touch on, there's a lot of topics that we could touch on, you know, I mean, mental illness, the amount of mental illness that is in this community. I mean, I don't deny mine. I finally had to break down and seek therapy because, well, I'm one of the most codependent people in the world. And
I mean, you would never know that knowing you. Never. You seem just the opposite. And that's a lot of very outgoing people. My aunt that passed away, who was like a mother to me, she was very outgoing, like you said it, meant what she said what she, you know what I'm saying? Very codependent. Their doctor, she would say coda. That's how she called it. I'm very coda. And you would have never known it unless you truly knew her.
well, I'm just going by what my therapist said.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, I just know that when they laid that baby in my arms back in 1986, I was scared to death. But
Yeah,
I
everything
took,
changed that day.
I took one look at him and I promised him that I would never, ever, ever walk away from him. So the day that I had to walk away from him, I felt like I had broke a promise to him and to God. But chance will tell you today that me leaving him and him happen to hit his rock bottom
Yep.
is why he's clean today. He didn't change just overnight when I left Florida.
Right.
He still went on carrying on doing his thing. But he didn't have his soft landing anymore. Mom wasn't there to come in and take a shower and get warm or get cool or get your belly full. And like I said, I felt like it was the only way to save us both so that I could be around to get him to the other side. And I will fight every single day until I take my last breath to get him to the other side. Between me and my higher power, which I choose to call it God, I
Amen.
will fight every single day to get that boy. He's 33 years old, but to me, he's still that little boy on the playground.
Yeah.
Until I take my last breath, I will fight to get him to the other side. Sometimes it's out of your control. Always it's out of your control. Sometimes, no matter what you do, you still lose them.
Right.
But
I remember.
as long as you can lay your head down at night, of course he is, Quinny.
I just remember my mom saying that because she never could understand it, and I'll get more into that, when I share my whole story. But till today, she'll tell me I no longer knew what to do. I prayed, but the day she said, I fell to my knees and I prayed and I told God, I need strength because I can't do this alone. And every time she says it, it just like it reminds me of how you're talking, and you can tell that you sharing your story, your life with your son. I can hear that pain. It sounds so much like my mom. Like it's so hard to get through talking about it because once you're through what they sometimes say was a storm in your life, you think to yourself, how did I do that? Like I don't even know where I got the strength from. You know what
I
I'm
missed a
saying?
super chat. Thank you, Mandy, Mixed Media Queen. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for interrupting, Galway.
Oh no, that's okay. Um, I can hear that same it sounds so familiar to me, you know.
If
It
you knew
sounds
how
like
many
a
times
pain.
I have buried
Yeah,
my son in my mind. How many times I have buried my son in my mind.
I can't like listening to it. It makes me, just I have that thing in my throat right now listening to you. Like I have four, my oldest will be 30, and I never had to deal with that. And, it's like when you listen to someone else's story, it kind of brings you back to, again, the significance of us being, you know, how important it is to truly, no matter how you feel about someone, have it be a creator, a sub. We're all subs, I guess, at the end of the day. But just there's so many other things if you have to resort to name calling. Just please stop with the addiction, the weight, the all of it. Just stop. There's other ways you could express it if you have to call them out. You know what I mean? I hope this helps stop some of that from happening again.
I do too, because I've kept my mouth shut for a long time now about this.
Hmm.
And I don't care who you are. I don't care what so-called side you're on. No one deserves it. No one. And I will continue to go to bed every single night, pray for the lost souls. And I'll pray for those who's lost their loved ones, for the mamas whose hearts are breaking. I belong to a group, Mother of Addicts on Facebook, and sometimes their stories feel guilty for writing in there because my story doesn't begin to touch. I just peeked in on it today, and a lady had just lost her son. She had just found out this morning after being clean and sober for 10 years. She just found out today that she just got the call today that she had lost her son. So there's help out there, guys. And if you need somebody to talk to, we're a big community. Reach out, man. I'll talk to you if you need to talk. If I need to talk, I got my little core group I can go to. If you want to talk, reach out. You know, don't let ugly words push you to some place that you don't want to go. I had one nephew who didn't come to dance service because of the way he died. Well, I don't think I would have anything to say to that nephew either. It booted you. I love you too, Galway. Hey, Smokey P. But let's not judge people, okay? Let's not judge people because by judging addicts, it's like judging me for getting cancer. You know, maybe I didn't take good care of my body. Maybe I didn't eat right. Maybe that's why I ended up with colon cancer. So, are you going to tell me to go eat a greasy donut? You know, let's just back off of it, man, because there's a lot of people out there that's hurting. And with the way the world is today, the country is today, young people are so sensitive right now because they can't get together with their friends. They're not able to socialize. There's a lot of them that's turning to drugs and to suicide. So please, guys, please, if you want to throw a tomato, throw a tomato. Don't throw a bomb. Don't throw a knife. Don't go in for the kill. You want to get your point across? Go ahead. But when you're out there and you're throwing knives at addicts, you're stabbing people like me and Quinny and of so many others. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to FaceTime my son again because I just want to see his face. For you guys that are struggling, please reach out. There's help. If you want it, it's out there. But you got to want it more than anything else. You got to be selfish when it comes to sobriety. We teach our children not to be selfish. But the one thing you have to be selfish is when you're ready to get sober. It has to be the first and foremost every single day of your life. So remember, guys, one day at a time. Let's try to be nicer to each other. And let's try to have some fun out here. Let's, you know, let's try to get back on track. I love you all. I appreciate you all coming in. I appreciate the super chats. I appreciate the members. I can't wait to see you around in another chat and see you around the tubes. Bye, guys. Be safe and healthy.